My name's Fay Harris and I'm the Student Experience Manager here in the Student Union at Keele. It's my role to coordinate the work of the advice service, student activities, volunteering and job shop. In terms of the advice service side of things, the advice unit is here to provide free, independent, impartial, non-judgmental advice and information to Keele students and representation. And the advice unit has been in this sort of format for about 20 years now, and we advise on a whole range of issues, which I think we'll talk about later. But we're available for prospective students, current students, and recently graduated students, undergraduate, postgraduate research, postgraduate taught on off campus. So we're here for all students. Okay,
great. And how do you go about reaching students, and what exactly do you do to kind of help them in general?
Okay, we try and be as accessible as possible for students, so they can either physically call in, they can telephone, and they can email, and also use the internet. We've got a website that's got quite a lot of information on it as well. And then if necessary we can also advise off-site. We've got facilities to meet students in places where it's more convenient to do so. We're physically based on the top floor of the Student Union at the moment, but summer 2012 the advice service will be moving to the ground floor of the Student Union, again to make the service a bit more accessible, and I think publicity-wise it's going to be a bit more useful being on the ground floor, because it's going to be a bit more visible instead of being on the top floor of the Student Union building.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any recent cases that you could share with us?
Yes, I've got some examples of. Because I think that it's useful, because I think that the kind of work that we do, because of the nature of the work we do, it's difficult to give details of clients, so we've kind of anonymised them. But I think it's useful in terms of getting the message across, because although we are based in a higher education institution and we work for a student union, obviously we've got the HE specialism, but we also advise on a whole range of issues. It's basically whatever life throws at students while they're here. So it's anything from claiming welfare benefits, consumer advice, debt, employment, housing, immigration, grants, loans, family issues, you name it, it's anything from A to Z. We work a bit like a Citizens Advice Bureau, which is a free sort of legal advice service that's available on the high street for all people to use. And we're not a CAB, but we do subscribe to their electronic information system. So again, you know, we're able to advise on HE education matters that are related to higher education, but also we can advise on education from 5 to 18 as well. So it's a whole range of things that we advise on. In terms of actual case studies, one example would be a client came to us to extend their visa, but whilst going through their application we noticed that actually there'd been an error in the length of time they were given to stay in the country, and so we recommended the entry clearance correction scheme, which is a free scheme, and that's obviously then saved the student approximately £420 in new visa application fees. Another example would be a student who came to us after their mobile phone had been stolen. They tried to claim on their insurance, but the insurance company were unable to honour the claim. We stepped in, and they then agreed to pay £300, which is what the claim was, once they'd received the agreed evidence which we'd negotiated with them. On a sort of academic level, we were contacted by a student with an appeal after they'd been asked to withdraw from the course. The appeal after our intervention was successful, and because of the consequence of the nature of their personal circumstances and their funding, that made a difference of £30,000 to that student. So there's a range of examples there, I think, and sometimes it's not a monetary value. Sometimes, you know, you can't quantify what we do in financial difference, and other times you can. So we've had another student who contacted us because of their circumstances while they're on leave of absence, and we assisted with a claim for welfare benefits. And that claim's ongoing. Last time it was, when we looked at it, that was to the value of about £1,500, but obviously with each week that goes by, that amount of money just increases.
Yeah.
And so we can have quite a significant impact on the student's life.
Yeah, that sounds like it. What sort of representation would you provide the students with?
Well, there's two different sort of areas with that. One is obviously with the institution, so if a student's asked to attend a meeting relating to their course or their living arrangements at Keele, so either if it's a disciplinary related to their accommodation, or if it's a university meeting, sometimes that can be regarding plagiarism, collusion, fitness to practice, health and conduct committees. So students contact us and say that they want us to go along with them to the meetings. Sometimes it's just to physically be with them, and they don't really want us to speak on their behalf, but they just want somebody with them. Other times it's to intervene if they get a bit tongue-tied and not able to articulate what it is they want to get across. And other times it's straightforward representation and they want us to speak on their behalf. And then outside of the institution, that can involve acting as a Mackenzie friend with them in court proceedings. It can involve liaising with external organisations, so debt companies and creditors, and also if they've got problems and issue with their private rented accommodation, liaising with landlords.
Okay, brilliant, yeah. Is the Independent Advice Unit funded independently or through KUSU as a charity?
Well, we're actually funded through the Student Union Resources.
Right. I see. Okay.
And plans for the future, alongside moving downstairs, we'll also be changing the name. So we've got quite a lot of changes coming up this summer. So physically we'll move, and as from the 1st of August, the service will be known as Advice and Support at Keele, so also known as ASK.
Right.
And it will be on the ground floor.
I see. And one final question. Will the rebranding of the Students' Union affect your department? I suppose obviously through the name and things, but in any other ways such as location, visibility, facilities?
Yeah, well obviously as I said, being on the ground floor is going to make a massive difference, I think, because I think that at the moment you have to know about us through other methods, so either through the prospectus, through the website, through course handbooks and literature that we put out. Hopefully with the rebrand and the refurbishment and the advice service moving downstairs, that's going to have quite a significant impact on the service in that we'll be a lot more high profile. Now obviously that's going to have consequences on service demand, and we need to manage that and manage student expectations in terms of what we can deliver. But hopefully what I'm hoping that it will do is that students would come to the service in a more proactive way rather than coming to the advice service in a crisis situation.